Okay, so what we gotta do is we gotta say 2 cosine squared theta is equal to 1. So that means that cosine squared theta is equal to 1 over 2. That means cosine theta is equal to plus minus 1 over root of 2. Now, since we have plus and minus, that means we have to be covering all the quadrants, right? Now, let's start with the obvious, right? So the cosine of theta is equal to 1 over root of 2 would mean that your theta in the first quadrant is equal to 45 degrees. Let me bring up the quadrants for you. Okay, so that means in the first quadrant it's going to be 45 degrees. For the second quadrant, it's going to be 180 minus 45 degrees, which means 135 degrees. For third quadrant is going to be 180 plus 45 degrees, which is going to be 225 degrees. And for the fourth quadrant is going to be 360 minus 45 degrees, which is going to be 315 degrees. So our angles are going to be 135, 45, 225, and 315. Let's go to the next problem. So here we should do the factoring. So we're going to do 2 sine of theta, and sine of theta here, plus 1 minus 1. Yep, that way we're going to be getting the end to be minus 1 because negative 1 times 1 is a minus 1. And we will also get the middle one to be plus sine because 2 sine theta times 1 minus 1 times sine theta would be basically equal to a sine theta. Okay, let's continue. So now what's going to happen is we're going to get 2 sine theta is equal to a 1. So sine theta is equal to a half. And by taking the inverse sine, the theta is going to be 30 degrees actually. Okay, but the sign is positive. That means we have to cover 2 quadrants. We have to cover the first quadrant. We also have to cover the second quadrant. We'll talk about that. For the second bracket, we have sine theta plus 1 is equal 0. That means that sine theta is equal to minus 1. So theta is equal to 270 degrees. Now, we talked about the first quadrant where the angle is 30, but how about the second quadrant? Let me bring up for you the XY coordinate. Okay, so here we go. So the first angle is going to be 30 in the first quadrant. For the second quadrant where the sign is also positive, it's going to be 180 minus 30, which means 150 degrees. And we're also going to be having a 270 degrees. So we're going to basically have 3 angles, 30, 150, and 270. Let's continue with the next problem. Let's combine the cosine terms. So we're going to have 1.5 cosine of theta minus 0.252 cosine of theta is equal to 1. So by doing some minusing here, we'll get 1.248 cosine theta is equal to 1. So cosine theta is equal 1 over 1.248. And so theta is equal to, let's do the shift of the cosine and see how much we get. And I got myself 36.77 degrees. But here's the thing, this cosine is obviously a positive number, and cosine is positive in 2 cases. In the case of 2 quadrants, which is quadrant 1 and also quadrant 4. Let me bring up the quadrants and show you what that means. So in quadrant 1, which would be this one, the angle is going to be simply 36.7 degrees. And in quadrant 4, which is this one, the angle is going to be found by doing 360 minus 36.7 degrees, which will be equal to 323.3 degrees. So we essentially have two angles, 36.7 in the first quadrant and 323.3 in the fourth quadrant. Okay, next up here we have, let's combine the tangent terms. So we're going to have 3 tan theta minus tan theta is equal to 4. So 2 tan theta is equal to 4. So tan theta is equal to a 2. Let's do the inverse tangent in the calculator and see how much we get. So I got myself the theta of 63.4 degrees. Now here tangent is a positive, and because positive, that's going to be possible only in two quadrants, quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. Let me show you this on the quadrants. So on quadrant 1, that would be 63.4 degrees, but on quadrant 3, that would be 180 plus 63.4 degrees. Let us see how much we get. And I got myself 243.4 degrees, which is here. So we essentially have two angles, 63.4 and also 243.4 degrees.